The world runs on signals. What if they suddenly lie? Every system depends on perfect timing. From space, the final frontier. But signals can be manipulated. And reality can be rewritten. One second delay can change everything. Can crash everything in a moment. When signals shift, we are all vulnerable. The sky becomes uncertain, yes? On the ground, chaos begins. Everything slows down to a crawl. The system begins to break. From inside, the system is failing. This is not local, no. It's global. Yes. Panic spreads faster than truth. Panic is faster than truth. Supply stops and demand explodes. Demand explodes, yes. Money exists, but you can't get to it. But you can't reach it. This isn't failure, no. It's control, yes. Someone is out there. Someone is watching. Is controlling the signals, yes. No bombs, no war, still total damage. The world recovers, yes. But not the same, no. The future isn't about power. Because the one who controls the signals controls the world. Invisible electromagnetic signals run the world. Not money, not machines, but timing. Every trade, every shipment, every digital pulse depends on perfect synchronization. Above the planet, satellites quietly control this rhythm. They guide markets moving at impossible speeds. This entire system relies on something dangerously fragile, signals that can be manipulated. Global logistics is not powered by engines alone. It is controlled by invisible coordinates streaming from space. Every route is calculated in real time. Every second is optimized for efficiency. Ships, trucks, and aircraft trust signals they cannot verify. There is no margin for delay in this system, no room for uncertainty, and no protection if those signals begin to lie. GPS is not just navigation, it is time itself. Financial systems depend on exact synchronization. Even a microsecond error can trigger massive loss. Banks align transactions using orbital clocks. Stock exchanges rely on perfect timing precision. Data centers coordinate across continents through satellite signals. Everything must stay aligned because once timing breaks, everything follows. But there is another side to these signals, a hidden battlefield most people will never see. Electronic warfare does not use bullets. It uses frequency. It does not destroy physically. It corrupts reality. Signals can be jammed, distorted, or completely replaced. What you see on your system may not be real. Coordinates can be shifted. Time can be altered. It begins with something small, a delay no one notices at first, a timestamp slightly out of place, a trade executed a fraction too late. In high-frequency markets, that fraction is everything. Algorithms react instantly, systems begin to misinterpret reality, and chaos spreads faster than humans can respond. Navigation is no longer certain. Pilots depend on satellite positioning to stay on course. But when signals are manipulated, location becomes an illusion. Aircraft may appear miles away from where they are. Routes become unreliable, decisions become dangerous, and the sky itself turns unpredictable. On the ground, the effects are just as severe. Freight fleets depend entirely on GPS routing. Drivers trust their screens more than their instincts. But when those screens lie, every decision becomes wrong. Routes overlap, delays multiply, supply chains begin to fracture, and movement turns into chaos. Deep beneath the surface, digital infrastructure struggles to adapt. Servers attempt to correct signals. Data begins to conflict with itself. Transactions cannot be verified. The network begins to collapse from within. The source of the problem is not random. It is controlled. Localized signal spoofing creates false realities. Receivers lock onto fake signals. Real satellite data becomes secondary. Truth is replaced by manipulation. This is not a localized failure. It is a chain reaction. Finance, logistics, aviation, all connected. Global trade begins to lose its rhythm. Coordination breaks down. The world does not stop. It starts drifting out of sync. Air logistics begins to hesitate. Routes that once flowed seamlessly now hesitate mid-path. Pilots are forced to question instruments. Navigation systems no longer provide certainty. Time-sensitive cargo begins to fall behind. The sky loses its precision. At sea, the problem becomes even more dangerous. Phantom signals begin to appear, false positions, false directions. Navigation systems cannot filter the noise. Global shipping begins to slow dramatically. On land, transportation grids begin to fracture. Timing is now compromised. Signals arrive late or not at all. Automated systems begin to fail safe, trains slow across entire regions, efficiency collapses into caution. This disruption is engineered. Signal spoofing is targeted. A single source can affect entire regions. Receivers lock onto the strongest signal, not the correct one. Reality becomes programmable. Systems obey the illusion. Financial systems begin to reject themselves. Transactions cannot be verified. Time discrepancies break trust. Banks refuse to process uncertain data. Markets begin to stall, algorithms freeze, the flow of money begins to stop. On the surface, the disruption becomes visible. ATMs stop responding. Banking systems delay. People begin to notice something is wrong. There is no explosion, no visible failure, just silence, and systems that no longer respond. Supply chains begin to freeze. Goods cannot move without direction. Warehouses fill, but nothing leaves. Everything depends on timing, and timing is now broken. The system cannot adapt, stagnation spreads. Air travel becomes unpredictable. Routes cannot be verified. Air traffic control slows operations. Air networks begin to clog. The financial world reaches a breaking point. Data stops flowing. Confidence collapses instantly. The system shuts itself down. This is no longer a localized event. It is global. Every system connected by timing is affected. Finance, logistics, aviation, all linked. A single weakness has exposed everything. The world is collapsing synchronously. Governments begin to react. Military systems detect abnormal signal patterns, but identifying the source is difficult. Spoofing signals can mimic legitimate systems. Attribution is impossible. Uncertainty becomes the greatest threat. Experts race to understand the disruption. Patterns emerge, but too slowly. The attack is adaptive. It shifts frequencies, changes behavior. Traditional defenses cannot keep up. The system continues to degrade. Attempts are made to restore control, but interference remains dominant. False signals overpower real ones. The system is trapped in deception, and recovery becomes increasingly distant. Urban systems begin to feel the impact. Traffic coordination fails. Movement slows across entire cities. Small disruptions create massive consequences. Everything depends on coordination, and coordination no longer exists. Small disruptions create massive consequences. Everything depends on coordination, and coordination no longer exists. The system reaches a critical threshold. Failures are no longer isolated. They are cascading. One breakdown triggers another. Infrastructure begins to shut itself down to survive. The world enters a controlled collapse. Energy supply begins to destabilize. Fuel distribution depends on precise coordination. Timing is now corrupted. Loading sequences fail mid-operation, transfers stop without warning, energy becomes inaccessible. Automation turns against itself. Machines wait for instructions that never arrive. Systems pause, then freeze. Ports designed for speed become static. Schedules collapse. The flow of goods stops completely. Even military systems feel the distortion. Precision navigation becomes unreliable. Accuracy disappears. Pilots are forced to rely on instinct. Technology loses its advantage, and control begins to slip. The truth begins to emerge. This is not random interference. It is structured, intentional, controlled. Signal spoofing is being deployed strategically. A single manipulated frequency can mislead entire systems. The scale is expanding. Financial systems enter survival mode. Trading halts. Risk becomes unquantifiable. Markets cannot operate without trust. Liquidity disappears instantly. Billions are frozen, not lost, but unreachable. The global economy stops breathing. Efforts to regain control intensify. Ground stations fight for integrity. Manual overrides attempt to bypass. But the system resists. Fake signals dominate. Reality is drowned in noise. Control slips further away. Cities begin to choke. Movement stops entirely. Emergency response is delayed. Coordination fails at every level. Navigation systems no longer guide movement. Urban efficiency collapses, and disorder spreads silently. Distribution networks fail internally. Goods exist, but cannot move. Sorting systems depend on precise timing. Without it, everything jams. Backlogs grow exponentially. Demand cannot be met, supply becomes meaningless without delivery. The system reaches total desynchronization. Satellites no longer operate as a unified network. Signals collapse. Global infrastructure loses its foundation. Everything built on precision timing fails simultaneously. This is systemic paralysis. The modern world was never built for uncertainty. It was built for precision, for speed, for control. But all of it depended on signals. That could be rewritten. What began as interference has become global disruption. How far will it go? This is where the invisible war begins. Not in cities, not in markets, but in silence. Electronic warfare units operate far from public view. Their weapons are not visible, but their impact is global. Signals are targeted with precision. Frequencies are analyzed, mapped, and manipulated. The battlefield is everywhere. and no one knows it has already begun. Deep underground, control centers come alive. These facilities monitor the invisible structure of the world. Every satellite signal is tracked in real time. Every anomaly is analyzed instantly. But this attack is different. It adapts, it shifts, it evolves. Traditional defense systems struggle to respond, and control begins to slip. Satellites attempt to correct their alignment. Ground systems try to re-establish connection, but interference dominates the spectrum. False signals overpower authentic transmissions. Receivers cannot distinguish the difference. The system begins to accept deception as reality, and once that threshold is crossed, recovery becomes exponentially harder. This is no longer just signal disruption. It is a coordinated, multi-layered attack. Cyber systems are targeted alongside satellite interference. Data is corrupted at the source. Signals are manipulated before they even arrive. The attack is both physical and digital, and its complexity makes it nearly unstoppable. The scale of the attack becomes clear. This is not random noise. It is precision spoofing. Deployed strategically, multiple signal layers are being injected simultaneously, each one designed to confuse and override. The system cannot filter them out. And now, every signal must be questioned. Military aviation begins to lose its edge. Navigation systems become unreliable. Targeting precision begins to degrade. Pilots rely on technology, now compromised, situational awareness collapses. And in modern warfare, uncertainty is vulnerability. Naval systems begin to question reality. False targets appear on radar screens. Real threats become harder to identify. Navigation data becomes unreliable. Strategic positioning becomes uncertain. And fleets lose their tactical advantage. Attempts to regain signal control intensify. Manual overrides are deployed across systems, but the interference adapts instantly. Every correction is countered in real time. The system is no longer reactive. It is being actively controlled, and the operators are always one step behind. The disruption spreads beyond control. Regions begin to fail simultaneously. Infrastructure nodes disconnect one by one. The network begins to fragment. What was once unified is now divided, and global coordination becomes impossible. Decisions are made at the highest level. This is no longer a technical failure. It is a strategic threat. The possibility of state-sponsored interference becomes real. But identifying the source is nearly impossible. Every signal can be disguised. Every attack can be denied. And uncertainty escalates the risk. Air dominance begins to weaken. Precision systems that once guaranteed control now hesitate. Navigation data shifts without warning. Pilots are forced to question every reading. Speed is no longer an advantage. Technology becomes unpredictable. And in a system built on precision, uncertainty becomes the greatest threat. Ground operations begin to fracture. Convoys rely on synchronized positioning to maintain formation. But now, routes begin to conflict. Navigation systems feed inconsistent data. Coordination breaks down between units. Movement slows, then becomes disjointed, and operational control starts slipping away. Satellite networks struggle to stabilize. Alignment corrections fail repeatedly. Signal integrity continues to degrade. Every adjustment is countered by interference. The system cannot hold position. Precision becomes impossible to maintain. And the backbone of global timing begins to collapse. Cyber defense systems activate at full capacity. Firewalls attempt to isolate corrupted data streams. But the attack bypasses traditional barriers. It operates within the signal itself. There is no clear entry point to block, no defined perimeter to defend. The system is being manipulated from within, and defenses begin to fail. A deeper pattern begins to emerge. This is not a single source disruption. Multiple synchronized nodes are working together, each one reinforcing the illusion, each one amplifying the deception. This is coordinated at a level never seen before. And its objective is clear: total control over signal reality. Data networks begin to overload. Traffic reroutes attempt to stabilize flow, but corrupted timing disrupts packet synchronization. Latency increases across entire regions. Systems lose their ability to coordinate. Digital communication slows dramatically, and the backbone of connectivity starts to fracture. Airspace becomes increasingly unstable. Controllers struggle to separate real from false signals. Aircraft positions begin to overlap digitally. Flight paths become uncertain. Holding patterns fill the skies. Delays multiply rapidly, and the margin for error shrinks dangerously. Manual control begins to replace automation. Workers attempt to compensate for system failure, but human speed cannot match digital precision. Mistakes increase rapidly. Shipments are misdirected. Schedules collapse entirely, and the efficiency of global logistics disintegrates. Financial verification systems begin to fail completely. Transactions cannot be validated in real time. Time discrepancies break trust across networks. Banks isolate themselves to prevent further risk. Global liquidity becomes restricted. Confidence erodes instantly, and the financial system starts shutting itself down. The crisis escalates beyond control. Governments activate emergency protocols. Critical infrastructure enters defensive mode, but response systems depend on the same signals. The attack undermines every layer of defense. Coordination becomes fragmented, and the global response struggles to form. Desperate attempts are made to regain control. Satellites are repositioned in orbit. New signal pathways are tested. For a moment, stability returns, but it does not last. Interference adapts instantly. Every solution becomes temporary, and control slips away again. Urban systems begin to degrade further. Infrastructure loses coordination. Traffic patterns collapse into disorder. Public systems slow dramatically. The effects spread into everyday life. People begin to feel the disruption directly, and stability becomes uncertain. Defense systems lose clarity, false targets flood radar screens, real threats become harder to detect, situational awareness collapses, decision-making slows under uncertainty, and in high-stakes environments, delay is dangerous, and confusion becomes critical risk. Global systems begin to disconnect. Supply chains break into isolated segments, routes disappear from tracking systems, coordination between regions collapses, the world becomes fragmented. What was once global becomes local, and isolation replaces connectivity. The realization becomes unavoidable. This is not a temporary disruption. It is a systemic takeover of signal reality. Control has shifted without physical conflict. No explosions, no visible destruction. Yet the impact is global. The world is still standing, but no longer connected. Energy infrastructure begins to destabilize further. Power distribution depends on synchronized control systems, but timing inconsistencies disrupt load balancing. Grids struggle to maintain stability. Minor fluctuations begin to cascade. Entire regions experience unstable supply. Energy does not fail instantly. It becomes unpredictable. Fuel systems begin to lose precision. Flow control depends on accurate timing data, but corrupted signals distort measurements. Systems react incorrectly. Overcompensation creates instability. Production slows under uncertainty. Energy supply chains weaken at their core. Maritime navigation becomes unreliable. Ships drift from optimal routes. Fuel efficiency drops instantly. Delivery times extend unpredictably. Global shipping schedules collapse further. Precision logistics turn into guesswork, and oceans become zones of uncertainty. Digital infrastructure reaches critical overload. Traffic rerouting cannot compensate for timing errors. Data packets arrive out of sequence. Systems reject corrupted transmissions. Network stability breaks down rapidly. Communication delays spread globally, and digital coordination becomes unreliable. The global financial system reaches its limit. Markets remain halted. Transactions cannot be trusted. Banks isolate to prevent total collapse. Liquidity freezes across continents. Confidence disappears completely. The system is not destroyed. It is paused indefinitely. Emergency systems struggle to adapt. Response times increase under disrupted coordination. Communication delays slow critical decisions. Resources cannot be deployed efficiently. Even crisis management depends on stable signals. Without them, response weakens, and vulnerability spreads further. The orbital network itself begins to destabilize. Satellites lose synchronized coordination. Signals overlap and conflict. The system cannot maintain order. Precision timing collapses completely, and the foundation of global systems begins to dissolve. Global logistics reaches a standstill. Movement ceases across critical networks. Supply chains no longer function. Goods remain locked in place. The system cannot recover its rhythm. Everything depends on coordination, and coordination is gone. The collapse becomes systemic. All interconnected systems fail together. Infrastructure shuts down to prevent damage. The world transitions into controlled paralysis. No single failure caused this. It is the result of total desynchronization. The system cannot restart because it no longer knows what is real. This is the new battlefield, a war without sound, without fire, without warning. Control is no longer about territory. It is about information, timing, and perception. The world still stands, but its systems are no longer in sync. And the most dangerous truth is that this was only the beginning. The system was never designed to fail like this. People trusted what they could not see. Signals, data, invisible control. But now, something feels wrong. Movement slows, decisions hesitate, confusion begins to replace routine, and the first signs of panic start to emerge. Panic does not begin with chaos. It begins with uncertainty. People react before understanding the problem. Supply chains are already broken, but demand suddenly spikes. Fear accelerates faster than logic, and the system cannot keep up with human reaction. Energy becomes the next pressure point. Fuel distribution is already unstable, but now, demand surges uncontrollably. People rush to secure what they can. Supply cannot respond in time. Shortages begin to appear, and tension starts to rise. The truth begins to reach the public. Not all at once, but in fragments. Disruptions are no longer isolated. They are global. Financial systems, logistics, communication, all affected simultaneously. The realization spreads quickly. This is something much bigger. Critical systems begin to feel the strain. Hospitals depend on synchronized infrastructure, but delays disrupt coordination. Equipment begins to lag. Decisions must be made faster, without certainty. Human life depends on precision, and precision is disappearing. Order begins to weaken. Authorities attempt to maintain control, but coordination systems are failing. Manual intervention replaces automation. Response becomes slower, less effective. Crowds grow restless, and stability starts to crack. The skies become crowded with uncertainty. Flights cannot land safely. Airspace becomes congested. Controllers struggle to maintain separation. Every second increases risk. Precision is no longer guaranteed. And safety margins begin to collapse. Financial confidence breaks completely. Businesses cannot access capital. Payments are delayed indefinitely. Operations begin to shut down. Decisions are made under uncertainty. Trust disappears from the system. And without trust, economies cannot function. Logistics networks go silent. Movement is no longer possible. Goods remain locked in place. Distribution systems shut down. Supply chains collapse entirely. The world has resources, but no way to move them, and that changes everything. Public pressure reaches a breaking point. Access to money becomes restricted. Fear turns into frustration. Frustration turns into anger. Crowds begin to form. Control becomes harder to maintain, and tension moves closer to chaos. Uncertainty spreads faster than information. People search for answers, but none are clear. Rumors begin to replace facts. Every decision becomes instinctive. Stay or move, trust or doubt. The mind begins to shift into survival mode, and when logic fades, fear takes control. Leadership is tested under pressure. Decisions must be made without complete information. Every option carries risk. Delay can make things worse, but action without clarity can be dangerous. Control is no longer absolute, and even those in charge begin to feel uncertainty. Security forces are deployed to maintain order. Presence becomes a tool of control, but control is fragile. The situation is not visible, yet deeply real. People sense something is wrong. Tension builds silently, and authority must adapt quickly. The crisis reaches into homes. Families begin to prepare, without knowing for what. Fear becomes personal. Questions replace comfort. What is happening, and how long will it last? Uncertainty creates tension inside every decision, and the human mind begins to adapt to instability. A deeper truth begins to surface. This is not chaos, it is control. Every disruption follows a pattern. Every failure connects to a larger system. Someone is shaping the outcome, not destroying, but controlling flow. And the realization changes everything. This is a calculated operation. Human systems begin to adapt. Backup protocols activate across critical infrastructure. Manual control replaces automation. Speed decreases, but control returns partially. People step in where systems fail. Skill replaces technology, and survival becomes the priority. Communities begin to organize themselves. Order emerges from within the people. Support replaces dependency. Human cooperation becomes critical. In crisis, systems fail, but people adapt, and resilience starts to appear. Alternative communication begins to rise. Traditional systems become unreliable. Simple signals regain importance. Radio becomes a lifeline. Information flows slowly, but clearly. People begin to reconnect, and communication finds new paths. Recovery begins at the ground level. Engineers step beyond automated systems. Manual calibration restores partial control. Progress is slow, but real. Every correction matters. Every system regained strengthens stability, and hope begins to return. The situation begins to stabilize, slightly, not because systems recover, but because people adapt. Control shifts from technology to human action. Decisions become more grounded, fear begins to reduce, and stability starts to rebuild slowly. Global coordination attempts to rebuild structure. Communication is limited, but active. Nations begin to align responses. Strategies form under pressure. The focus shifts from reaction to recovery. Control is still uncertain, but direction begins to emerge. Efforts to restore signal integrity begin. New frequencies are deployed carefully. Systems attempt to bypass interference. Partial synchronization returns, but stability is fragile. Every correction must be precise, because one mistake could restart the collapse. Movement begins to return, not at full speed, but enough to function. Cities adapt to reduce systems. People adjust expectations. Efficiency is no longer the goal. Stability is, and the world begins to move again. Financial systems restart cautiously. Transactions are limited and controlled. Trust rebuilds slowly, step by step. The system learns from failure. Precision is no longer assumed. Verification becomes stricter, and the economy takes its first breath again. The world survives, but it is changed. The illusion of control is broken. Dependence on invisible systems is exposed. Recovery is possible, but fragile. The system will never be the same, because now humanity understands the truth. Control was never guaranteed. It was only trusted. The chaos does not end suddenly. It fades, slowly, unevenly. Life begins to move again, but differently. People act with caution, not confidence. The rhythm of the world has changed. Speed is replaced by awareness, and beneath the surface, uncertainty still remains. Rebuilding begins with understanding. Every system is inspected, re-evaluated. Weaknesses are no longer ignored. Dependence is reduced, step by step. Human oversight returns to critical systems. Technology is no longer blindly trusted, and resilience becomes the new objective. The world begins to respond collectively. Global cooperation becomes necessary. This was not a local failure. It was a shared vulnerability. New strategies are formed, new rules are discussed, because the next time, the consequences could be worse. The realization deepens. The system was never secure. It was efficient, but fragile. Speed came at the cost of resilience. Complexity created hidden weaknesses, and those weaknesses were exploited. Now the question is no longer prevention, but adaptation. A new phase begins. Stronger systems are deployed, redundancy replaces reliance, signals are redesigned for resilience, multiple layers of verification are introduced, the system evolves under pressure, and control begins to return carefully. Digital systems regain stability. Synchronization improves gradually. Networks reconnect with caution. Every signal is verified repeatedly. Trust is rebuilt slowly, not assumed. The system becomes stronger, but more aware of its limits. The world begins to stabilize. Movement returns to structure. People regain confidence in systems. Routine slowly rebuilds. But something has changed. Awareness replaces blind trust, and the memory of disruption remains. The next generation looks at the same sky, but with different understanding. What once seemed distant now feels critical. The systems above are not just tools, they are lifelines, and protecting them becomes a shared responsibility. The system returns, stronger than before. Synchronization is restored across the globe. Signals flow with renewed precision. Infrastructure stabilizes completely, but the illusion is gone. Control is no longer taken for granted, because the world has seen how easily it can be broken. The world did not collapse, but it came close enough to understand its limits. Technology gave humanity control, but also created new vulnerabilities. The balance between power and risk has been revealed. And as systems grow more advanced, one question remains: who truly controls the signals that control everything? The system has been restored. Signals flow once again across the planet. Synchronization returns to every network, from finance to logistics to communication. But something has changed. The illusion of safety is gone, because now humanity knows how fragile control really is. Systems are stronger, but more complex. Layers of protection have been added. Redundancy has been built into every network, but complexity creates new risks. Every solution introduces new vulnerabilities, and every defense can be studied and eventually broken. A new era of monitoring begins. Signals are no longer trusted blindly. Every transmission is analyzed. Every anomaly is investigated. But surveillance cannot guarantee security, because the battlefield is evolving, and the next attack may not look the same. Somewhere, the next move is already being planned. Not all systems are visible. Not all players are known. The same technology that protects can also be weaponized. And in this silent war, visibility is an illusion. Power belongs to those who remain unseen. The race for control intensifies. Nations deploy more satellites than ever before. Coverage becomes denser, more powerful. Control extends deeper into every system. But this expansion creates competition, and competition leads to conflict. Electronic warfare becomes a primary strategy. Jamming and spoofing evolve rapidly. Capabilities grow more precise, more powerful. What was once experimental is now operational. The ability to control signals becomes a weapon of dominance, and control becomes the ultimate objective. The world returns to speed, faster than before, more connected than ever, but also more dependent. Every second relies on perfect synchronization. Every system depends on invisible signals, and that dependence is the greatest risk. Automation expands into every sector. Human control decreases, system control increases, efficiency reaches new levels. But autonomy requires trust, and trust requires stability. If signals fail again, the consequences will be even greater. New technologies promise greater security. Quantum communication aims to eliminate interference. Signals become harder to manipulate. Encryption becomes nearly unbreakable. But no system is perfect. Every advancement invites new challenges, and the cycle continues. Future scenarios reveal a dangerous truth. The next disruption could be faster, stronger, and more precise. Entire systems could collapse in seconds. Recovery may not be possible in time, and the world may not be ready. The future runs on automation. Machines communicate faster than humans ever could. Decisions are made in milliseconds. Efficiency reaches unimaginable levels. But every system depends on signals. Every movement relies on invisible coordination. And if those signals are compromised, the system collapses instantly. Control is no longer physical. It exists in frequencies, in timing, in data. Whoever controls the signal controls the system, and whoever controls the system controls the world. This is the new balance of power. Invisible, but absolute. Weapons have evolved. They no longer destroy cities. They disable systems. Jamming replaces explosions. Spoofing replaces invasion. The battlefield is silent, but its impact is global, and its reach has no boundaries. Finance depends entirely on precision. Every trade is timed to perfection. Every transaction relies on synchronization. Speed defines success, but speed increases vulnerability, because the faster the system, the less time it has to react, and the greater the risk of failure. The truth becomes undeniable. The world is not a collection of systems. It is one system, connected, synchronized, dependent. A single point of failure can affect everything. And that is the greatest vulnerability of modern civilization. Space is no longer empty. It is crowded, contested, strategic. Every satellite is part of a larger system. Every signal is part of global control. And as space becomes more complex, so does the risk, because congestion creates opportunity for disruption. Defenses continue to evolve. Countermeasures are deployed instantly. Systems attempt to protect themselves, but defense is always reactive. Attack defines the battlefield, and adaptation becomes the only survival strategy. Human control fades into the background. Machines take over complex decisions. AI manages global systems efficiently, but AI depends on accurate data. If signals are manipulated, AI makes the wrong decisions faster, and the consequences multiply instantly. Testing reveals a critical weakness. No system is immune. Even advanced networks can be disrupted. Interference adapts to defenses. Every solution has limits, and those limits can be exploited again and again. Control begins to centralize. Fewer systems, more power. Coordination improves, but risk increases. A single authority can manage everything, but if that authority fails, everything fails with it, and the balance of power becomes dangerously concentrated. The race accelerates, more satellites, more coverage, more control. Competition intensifies between global powers. Every nation seeks dominance, because control of signals means control of systems, and control of systems means control of the future. Innovation becomes the key to survival. New technologies aim to eliminate weaknesses. Systems are redesigned for resilience, but perfection remains impossible. Every advancement creates new complexity, and complexity creates new vulnerabilities. The world adapts and moves forward. Life becomes more connected, more efficient. Systems operate with invisible precision. People trust the system again, but trust is built on assumption, and assumptions can be broken. Not all control is visible. Not all power is known. Some systems operate in the shadows, watching, learning, waiting. The next disruption may not be public. It may not be detected immediately, because the most dangerous control is the one you cannot see. The world stands stronger, but not safer. Systems are rebuilt, but still vulnerable. Control has evolved, but so have threats. The balance remains unstable, because in this new era, power is invisible, and the future belongs to those who control it. The world moves again. Systems return to order. Rhythm is restored across cities. People return to routine. But something is different. The confidence is quieter. The awareness is deeper, because the system has been tested. Control has been rebuilt, carefully. Every signal is verified. Every system is monitored. Redundancy protects against failure, but protection is never absolute. Every system has limits, and those limits will always exist. The world is told that stability has returned, that systems are secure, that control has been restored, but confidence is carefully managed, because the truth is more complex. The system survived, but its vulnerability remains. Expansion continues at an even greater pace. More satellites, more coverage, more control. The network becomes stronger, but also heavier, more dependent on itself, more complex, more fragile, because growth always increases risk. The truth cannot be ignored. The system is unified, and therefore vulnerable. Everything depends on synchronization. Everything depends on trust in signals, and a single failure point can affect everything. This is the price of global connection. Total efficiency with total risk. The watch never stops. Signals are monitored constantly. Threats are analyzed in real time, but monitoring is not prevention. It only reduces response time, because the next attack will not announce itself. It will simply begin, somewhere, beyond public view. Others are watching, studying the same systems, learning from the same vulnerabilities, preparing for the next opportunity. Because in this silent war, the advantage belongs to the unseen and the patient. The future looks upward. New generations will grow within this system. They will trust what they cannot see, just as before. But the difference is awareness, because knowledge of vulnerability changes everything. The system is complete again, stronger, faster, more advanced, but also more dependent than ever. Every function tied to invisible signals, every system linked to timing, and every connection, a potential vulnerability. The world did not fall, but it learned how close it could come. Power is no longer measured in land or weapons, but in control of the invisible. Signals, timing, synchronization. Because in this new era, the one who controls the signals controls the world.